be able to make sure at least you don't mess up someone's hair, okay? So that's the main thing. I've seen so many people make major mistakes in hair cutting, and it was just a very small detail, okay? So we did this last year this time. We went over 1405. We did a basic 0 haircut. So we're gonna do that again. I'm gonna review it and hopefully move on quickly from there, right? Of course, I firmly believe in shampooing first. So I always would have shampooed my plant first, right? All right, basic 0, okay? First thing I'm always gonna do, you're already recording me? Okay. First thing I'm always gonna do is establish my perimeter. Remember, your perimeter is everything that's going on the outer outline of the hair. So right now we're just doing a basic 0 degree elevation. We have separated already the front from the back, okay? Right behind the ear, I don't want to get too deep into any of this, just right behind the ear. You always want to think about where that hair is naturally going to fall, okay? So right now, I just want a horizontal bob all the way around one length, okay? I'm not trying to angle it forward. I'm not trying to do a V cut, nothing like that. I just wanted a basic, straight, blunt, haircut, horizontal perimeter, okay? Later, I'm gonna ask you to do a 0, which means we don't elevate the hair at all. We're just pulling it straight down with 0 degree elevation. And we are gonna do a diagonal forward or a diagonal back. But right now, just a blunt 0, okay? All right, so down the center, I'm gonna find my center of the nape. I'm gonna come straight back and divide it from right to left. I've already done that in the front, okay? Before I clip it up out of the way, I'm just gonna go ahead and take my subsection, about 1 inch. Okay, one of the most important things I can tell you about the nape area is remember that it curves. So we want them to look down. Just till you reach that occipital bone. Once you reach the occipital bone, you can have them look straight up. I would also encourage you to be eye level, right here, okay? It's very hard to stand up high and that chair is all the way down here. We want to be as close to eye level as we can. That way we're not tempted to lift the hair and cut it, okay? So I'm always going to start in the center of my section, of my head, and work right, and then come back to the center and work left. I'm going to try as best I can to keep everything parallel and horizontal. So this starts with your center part. If your center part isn't vertical, then it's going to give you a weird visual aid that you don't want. You want it to be straight and vertical. And I can see my comb is vertical with the board behind me, okay? I can see my horizontal line here is parallel to my board tray behind me, my table here. Everything has that extra line right there in my sight. So this could be your vanity, this could be the bottom of your mirror, this could be a window behind you, anything that when you're combing that hair I can see visually it's parallel and it's straight. Make sense? So use those things around you. Don't get so caught up in being right here that you're not taking a step back and looking at how it lays. This is also super important when you get to doing curly hair, because there's no way you can put a lot of tension on curly hair and hope that it's straight and cut it. Let it go and it bounces back up in all different directions. Right, Delilah? always cutting the hair wet. I would never recommend dry cutting myself. That's just me. Maybe when you're way advanced and you have $1,200 shears that slice right through the hair like butter. These are $100 shears, so they're not going to do that. Okay. So we start in the center. We only want to grab as much hair as we can hold with this first two knuckle parts of our fingers. So I'm never going to get this whole section and cut it. Tiny sections. I'm going to isolate my center. Make sure I'm combing from the scalp to the end. So I'm not doing this. I'm going all the way from here to here. I'm going to pull it straight down. A little bit of nice tension. Okay? And I'm going to try my very best to hold my hand parallel to the floor. So if I do this, I'm cutting that hair at an angle. I'm not cutting it parallel and horizontal to the floor. So that means this hair underneath is going to be longer and it's going to flip. Okay? So try very hard to hold your comb parallel to the floor, your hands parallel to the floor, and your shears parallel to the floor. So again, be eye level or jack that chair up and sit down if you have to, so that you get a nice clean line and you'll know that your hair is not going to flip. Okay. Other thing is, only my thumb should be moving. So we're never doing this. Okay, we're only moving our thumb. So this bottom blade is your movable blade. This is the only one that should be pushing the hair, not this one. So the top one is your still blade, and your thumb is your movable blade. Okay, so that takes some getting used to. All right, so I have my center. I always will make sure my client tells me where she wants me to cut it, not I want 3 inches off. I want it to see, where do you want me to cut it? So right here, and I show her in the mirror. Or right here, or right here. What do you think 3 inches is? They don't know, okay? All right, so you can see already how this is naturally curving under, right? That's gonna make every haircut look thick and full and pretty, even if they have no hair. But if I do this and I start flipping it, because it's easy and quick and fast, then that hair is gonna flip and it's never gonna lay right. Okay, now I'm using a traveling guide, so I'm not cutting it stationary. Stationary means I would never move. I would bring all this hair here and cut it, all this hair here and cut it. But is that going to give me a horizontal line? No, it's going to make this longer and it's going to start moving that line forward. So I'm not going to have a horizontal line. Okay, so a stationary guide is going to change my perimeter by pulling that hair out of its natural fall over here. So I want to travel. So that means either I have to move or my client has to move, okay? Because we are traveling. Now at this point, I would make sure her head's straight. You always want to make sure your client's straight, not looking at their phone and all that stuff, at least while you're establishing your guide. Okay, you can see I have 0 degree elevation. I have my guide in my hand, and I'm gonna cut. Okay, then I'm gonna go all the way back over here. Do it again. I'm gonna take a little bit of that guide from previous, what I did here, and match it. Making sure my scissors are still parallel to the floor. Make sure I'm pulling that section straight down at 0 degree elevation, and I'm cutting right in front of my section. So I'm not cutting this hair over here, I'm cutting right in front of my section. Okay, now I can go back. So before I move on, I want to make sure she's straight. I want to make sure I take a little piece of this, a little piece of this, bring it back to my center line, and just slide down and check it. See if those ends match. If they do, you're good to go. Okay? If they don't, maybe pretend it's like this, well then I would just cut that to match it. And then I'd go back and fix it. Okay? Easy? Okay. I like to use these for cutting because I can open them up, find my next subsection, slice it, pull it up, make sure you have a good clean horizontal line, make sure you can actually see your line. So even this is kind of messy. Let's twist it at the base and bring it up. So that way we have a really good, nice visual aid. I've always been one of those people that walks by the picture, you know, and fixes it because it's crooked. So you should get to that too, or you don't even need a level. You can see a clear, straight line. Of course, you can always use your comb to subsection. Okay. All right, so now I have my guide ready underneath. I'm never going to recut my guide. I'm just going to go a sliver past it and cut it again. Cut the top hair above it. So if you can't see your guide, then your subsection's too big. Take some of that hair out until you can see it. So here, I can see my guide, right? I'm going right past it, using the same technique of pulling my horizontal shears horizontally. I'm going to start in the center, and I'm going to work my way to the right. I'm going to travel. I'm going to go back. And I shouldn't have to continuously check my guide as I work up, but it doesn't hurt to do that. That way you know you got off somewhere rather than getting all the way to the top and realizing you gradually got longer. You'll usually, if you're right-handed, your left side's going to be longer. I don't know why. Because it's easy to work here, but it's harder to work here. So we usually get longer and longer on our left side. Go ahead and work up. Of course, my subsection from here to here is based on what factor? Nobody? Crickets? Everybody's asleep? Density, okay? Density. So if this hair is very dense and I'm taking 1/2-inch subsections and I can't see my guide, then I need to take 1/4-inch subsections. That's just based on how much hair is actually in this section, right? That's density. Okay? So make sure again when you're coming down, you have nice good tension, 0-degree elevation. Don't get lazy and start doing this. Find your guide. It's clearly here. I'm cutting horizontally with my shears. Working from the center to the right. Moving to where I can see my section right in front of me. And you can see the control that I have in my fingers. This is years of hair cutting. Every single hair is straight. Do you see that? It's not this is bumpy and this is straight. I have everything I'm cutting in a nice, clean, straight line from scalp to ends. are gradually gonna layer because they're cheap. So usually on a person, obviously they're gonna have twice as much density. So this is gonna take you quite a bit longer to do. Don't get lazy and not move. Every time you do a new section, either you have to move or your client has to move, okay? Everybody knows what I mean by that, right? So I basically did 5 cuts, so I've had to move 5 times, right? I cut here, 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 4, 5. So I moved every single time I cut that hair, or I moved my client. That's why she swivels. She's a swiveler. Alright. Finish up the back, and then I'll move on to the sides. Again, I'm just combing that hair where it naturally would fall. I don't want to make the mistake of bringing it all back here and cutting it, because that hair is not going to fall back here. That hair falls here. So wherever it naturally falls. Sometimes I'll comb the hair several times before I decide that looks good. Especially this last top layer. I want it to be nice and pretty and clean. I'm always combing from the scalp to the ends from the very top of my section. So if you saw me do this and then cut it, okay, I'm still have perfect tension on that hair before I did that, okay? So please don't mistake my bad habit there for, I still have control on that hair. All right, so now we're gonna move to the sides. Actually, you know what? I'm going to double check the back real quick and just make sure that even here on each side is even. I think it is. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to go to the sides. All right, on the sides, I'm going to go 1 inch above the ear, horizontal. And I'm going to do that on both sides. Okay, so I'm going to cut these pieces first and match them with her chin to make sure, same way I checked them in the back center part, I'm going to check them here with her chin. That they, as I bring it down, that they're actually even, okay? Then once I know they're symmetrical, I'll finish here and here. Okay? So first thing we do, pick one side. We're gonna split this in half right at the top of that ear. Okay, because everybody's ears are different. These mannequins have no ears. Okay, most people, that ear is going to bounce out about an inch, and it's going to be big, it's going to be wide, it's going to be misshaped. So I always separate this piece right at the top of that ear. I'm going to bring this behind the ear and cut it at my longest area in the nape. So I do over direct this piece just a little bit. And rather than cutting it here on top of that ear that's going to bounce out, I'll put it behind the ear, but I over direct it. Leave it a little longer. It just gives you room for mistakes. That way you're not tempted to do it this way and then put too much tension on that ear, and then when you let it go, it's an inch shorter and you're like, oh shit, right? Because then it just went like this. So if you'll separate it, put it behind the ear, over direct it to the nape, cut it here. Then when you let it go, you've got that extra room here, okay? Then I'm gonna go ahead and match a piece of that to the front, horizontal, find my guide, cut from there. Okay, now I'm gonna do the same exact thing on the other side. Again, I'm going from side to side here, 1 inch above the ear. I don't want to do the whole top until I know for sure it's symmetrical. Otherwise, I'm going to end up with a very lopsided haircut, and then I've got to go back and try to fix it all the way around. It's going to be hard. Okay, so here I split it at the top of the ear, bringing this piece back, matching my guide here, bringing a little piece of this forward, combing this straight down, finding my guide, cutting it horizontally. Okay, now I'm gonna double check here. That it matches. It's in the center of her face as much as possible. You want to see if that's even and symmetrical. And it does look very even. Okay. And I'll check this a couple of times just to make sure I have nice tension on both sides. Make sure if she's, if she has shoulder blades, her collarbone, look at her collarbone. Look at her shoulders, if it's sitting on her shoulders. All of those things are factors. Some people naturally tilt their heads. Like I had a little girl that she's very blind in one eye. So she's always tilting so that this eye's up top. So no matter what I did, her hair was always off center. So then you have to decide, is it more important that her hair is even or symmetrical, or just that it's, it's all the same length, Okay, so once you know these sides are all good, pick one and keep working your way up. Same thing, horizontal pieces. These you don't have to quite put so much tension on because we do need to consider that ear. You're finding your guide underneath that you just cut, and you're just matching that guide. And I can go ahead and go all the way up this piece. Okay. Again, wherever it naturally falls. As you get higher, it becomes more important that it's right where it naturally falls. Even this, if it's deep, if it's a widow's peak or whatever, I'll bring it back to this side and cut it. I can always go back in and do fringe or do a side bang or face frame it. later. But right now, all I'm doing is working on my blunt 0 and I'm establishing that perimeter. That's it. 99% of the time, I'm gonna do my entire perimeter first. So whether it's a V-cut, a horizontal, diagonal forward, whatever, I'm gonna do my perimeter first. Then I'm gonna go into the interior and I'm gonna create those layers. So based on her curl pattern, based on how short she wants her layers, all that stuff, then I'll go in and texturize and add the layers. But I'm almost always gonna establish the perimeter first because most women don't care how it looks here. They wanna know how to look around the face and they wanna know the length. That's gonna be the #1 complaint. You cut too much off. My hair's so short. You know, they're not gonna complain about the layers. They're gonna complain about the length of their hair. I said 1 inch. So, establishing that perimeter first is really important. Okay, we're ready to do this? Everybody's ready. So everybody has an assignment to do one of these next week. By Friday, I need you to either do it in the lab or post it on your YouTube channel. If you have not yet created a YouTube channel, please do that now. We will start having weekly assignments. You're either going to need to be here to show me your work, or on YouTube posting to your channel. And of course, once I style this and blow it out and all that stuff, I'm gonna go back and texturize. I'm gonna go back and see how it lays. I want to look at it dried and styled with her natural curl pattern. See what kind of face framing we're gonna do if she does decide to do a bang or whatever. But that is just our straight horizontal bow.